Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Gurula, and we are looking at a market that is definitely in turmoil. Wasn't necessarily a benefit that the Snap news came out yesterday for those folk who were trading to the upside who may have been swinging their positions. But anyway, it's a new day. So today is Tuesday, the 24th of May, and just want to say good morning. So good morning, Princess. Good morning, David. I have a question, Dave. So why would someone, we got the Snap, I guess it was the CEO, right, who came out yesterday and sort of released this bombshell about how poorly they were going to do, and it wasn't. I mean, why did we do that? And then, I mean, they just reported recently, like about 30 days ago, for their earnings.
Oh, I agree. Just absolutely. I mean, I can't believe anybody would be that stupid. I mean, if I'm a large shareholder in Snap, I mean, I'm calling my attorney first thing this morning. There'll be a class action suit against him, I think. You just can't talk. I mean, I guess freedom of speech, you're protected, blah, blah, blah. But if he deliberately, he cost shareholders value, and that's just not, that should be illegal.
I mean, if you look at where they closed at $22.47 yesterday, and the current price is $14.75. I mean,
Ouch.
goodness.
That hurts.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost, that's almost half their value.
And can you imagine if you're an employee of Snap and you got this guy leaving the, I mean, I'm thinking about looking for another place to work.
And I can't imagine that when the market opens, it's not going to continue down. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's one thing for sure. I think it's going to probably just go sideways, if nothing else.
He has to come out today and say something to offset that.
David, I'm surprised he would wait so long,
Well, what do you mean wait? I mean, after earnings, you mean?
After
he made that statement, I mean, it didn't waste any time dropping.
Yeah.
And Abercrombie and Fitch is doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think any retail at this juncture, I mean, any retail, I mean, we've seen what happened with retail. Any of the social media companies, I'm looking at Facebook trying to figure out if Facebook is going to continue to decline today, because it filled the gap. It had a gap on the daily chart that it filled here, that it will fill. And this is the Bollinger Band. So it was less volatile. It wasn't as much volatility. It was sort of going sideways. So I'm just wondering if now that it's filled the gap here, if it's going to turn around. But I don't see it. Why would it in this environment?
Richard, are you showing your screen? I can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me share my screen. My apologies. Can you see it now?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, I have up Bollinger Bands because I was trying to figure out, I want to look at something that's not consolidating so I don't get stuck in a place where I can't really do anything. So I went through and I found things like BTU, Nikola maybe, but it looks like it's starting somewhat of a consolidation. But I'm going to put this on the list for today. Also, it's like Tesla. So here we're looking at probably a consolidation. So we had some volatility here, and now this has really gotten narrow. And we see yesterday, who knows what's going to happen on the open, but it looks like a consolidation. If I go to a 4-hour chart, you kind of get a better better view, I guess. SPY. So based on this yesterday, I wouldn't have traded SPY if I looked at this yesterday, because again, we've got these bands coming together, which indicates that it's going to be a bit of a consolidation. And we didn't get a lot of price movement in SPY yesterday. I mean, I think it was up like $6, which is really unusual given the volatility of this market. Bank of America looks good, but I think that's a nice trade to the downside. And we see here that Cleveland Cliffs has been consolidating. Plug, I wouldn't trade Plug. This came from this very wide band. Now it's just very narrow, so it's just gonna trade sideways. So I'm very interested to see what happens. And even with the VIX, if I look at the VIX on a faster time frame, the VIX is not going crazy, which is really interesting given where we are with respect to the projected opening. The VIX is really kind of narrow and trading in this narrow range. So now when the market opens, it could maybe climb considerably, but right now it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So it's going to be an interesting trading day. And I'm just curious to see how things are going to shake out today. But yeah, so the VIX is still below resistance. And by all accounts, it should fall. So it would be really interesting to see what happens when the market opens. Trying to figure out what, if anything, is going to be a good choice there. I like ABI to the downside, ABV, I should say. Like CNX to the upside, like roadblocks to the downside. Booming brands for sure to the downside, given what's happening on the daily chart. So going back to blooming brands, I looked at this and I can't believe I missed it. This is an inside month on blooming brands. So ideally, I would have bought a put here once it broke below the monthly low from April and stayed in it until 1788. Still not too late, but there was a missed opportunity. I just wasn't paying attention. So let's go back and see what is SPY doing this morning. And I was telling Dave, SPY, in order for it to have a chance, I believe it needs to get above 394.16, which is where the 5-day EMA is. So that's going to be key. Going to keep an eye on Facebook as well. There could be an opportunity there. I think it's going to continue to decline, but you know, we don't want to be too early. And just for grins, Snap. But overall, it should be an interesting morning, to say the least. And we're going to wait for our signals. Looks like we have a climbing VIX. But again, the VIX has a lot of resistance. So we'll see how that works out. So Princess, do you have anything in particular that you would like to trade today?
Anything in particular? No, I think I want to watch Apple.
All right, let's look at Apple. All right, so I'm gonna just take a look on a daily chart and see what I see here for Apple. So we got Apple bouncing off of some support here. We do have a falling VIX. All right, so we're gonna just take a look at Apple. Let's see, AbbVie, blooming brands, that's just gonna fall. I mean, this is just such a great signal here. And I can't believe again that I missed it. CNX is going to climb. It's breaking out, CNX. And I'll show you something on the daily. It's the 5-day crossed the 50 here, which was a bullish signal. Huge volume. So you've got this doji at the bottom, and now it is just ready to start its ascent. Looks like 2259 is where the resistance is going to be. So that could be a good trade to the upside. All right, so let's get back to our view here, and we're going to use a 1-minute chart. Go back to SPY and Apple. Apple looks like it would be a nice trade to the upside today. So SPY looks like it's going to be in trouble. The SPY is falling. The SPY is falling. Let me go to a 5-minute chart to see if we can.
As in Chicken Little, right?
Yes. Well, we see it hit this ATR trailing stop here on the 5-minute. So that was a clear indication that it could have a problem at this level, 393.60. So again, the 5-day EMA, which is at 393.86, we need to be above that before it to have a chance today. I'm not so sure if that's going to happen. So we're going to mark the opening high and the opening low. For SPY. Let's see if this is going to be the low here. I'm going to give this a few minutes. Apple will mark this. We may have to replace this once we get our ORB, but we'll mark it. AbbVie. BTU should be on my list. I like BTU, and I like the way it is set up on the daily chart. It broke out of a consolidation yesterday. We had this consolidation here, and yesterday it broke out. So I'm expecting it to move to the upside. It would be one that I would consider trading the upside at, say, gas stock. CNX. Let's make sure I move this up. I like CNX as well to the upside. Facebook, we could get a consolidation. Nikola, I believe, is going down. Nikola is one that is an inside week. So we don't want to miss this one. If it falls below 571, then the idea would be to take it down to 482. This has been consolidating here. So Nikola might be the choice to the downside no matter what happens today. Back to the 5-minute. Roadblocks is another one. Roadblocks has been consolidating, and you see it breaking out of this consolidation. All right, so we've got a downward move on the SPY. And it looks like it's going to continue in that direction. I don't know what's happening with my options chain here. The numbers aren't populating. Oh, I think I've got too many. All right. So we're going to wait. I mean, it's very tempting to take this trade to the downside, but I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I think Apple might be the better trade to the downside today. AbbVie is moving in a direction that I did not anticipate. I expected it to decline today, but looks like it's going to do something. It's not too late to decline, but in Blooming Brands, we had that one marked because it, again, is an inside bar from a monthly candle. BTU, upside, oil and gas, this Peabody Energy, CVX, upside. Facebook looks like it's going down. Nikola, roadblocks, Snap. So Snap is down to $13.80. Move this down. So mark that as opening low. And the VIX is not crazy, which is very interesting given the amount of volatility in the market today. So looking at Apple, Apple's going to consolidate here on the open. And Apple to the upside, 141.71 is where the 5-day EMA is. So if Apple starts to consolidate above this level here at 141.78, thereabouts, 140.75, then that would be a consideration for an upside trade on Apple with a target of about 149 before it runs into any resistance. So the ATR Apple is $6.27. All right, so AbbVie is, wouldn't trade AbbVie because it's running into some consolidation. So looking at it on a daily, I trade to the downside, but not to the upside, because here it's been consolidating and it now has fallen to the downside and it's trying to move back up. I'm a little bit concerned about trading it to the upside. Ideally, we'll wait till it shows, give us a signal to the downside and trade it to the downside, which would be the correct move, I think. All right, so we have marked the opening highs and lows with the 5-minute candles. BTU, that's a strong move. We want to wait for it to come back and test the support. Same thing for CNX. I'm going to mark this as a high. All right, Facebook, I'm going to mark this as the opening low. Nikola, move this down. Roadblocks. Snap still falling. In 3 minutes, we'll get our ORB. SPY. So SPY's hanging in there. I mean, it's down, but not out. And again, 393.78 is where we need it. So if the SPY gets above the opening high, we want to be a bit patient because that 5-day EMA would still be above it. All right, so we're losing Apple to the downside. We have a ATR trailing stop here on the 5-minute. See if that holds. It's still moving to the upside, making new highs. Blooming Brands is consolidating near this target. So we have a target here. Blooming Brands of 1788. It is almost there. So this would have been the trade for the past 3 days. Move this up for CNX. So we're getting some tops here, opening highs. Facebook is still declining. Nikola, roadblocks. Even Snap has found the base. And SPY. All right, so we should get our opening range in just a few minutes here on our chart. All right, so we have it. So we can remove these now. We're just trying to get an idea about where we were going to be setting our targets. Expecting the SPY to trade in a narrow range. Today based on the Bollinger Bands, but we'll see. All right, so Apple, I'm going to take an Apple trade to the downside. I'm on a 1-minute chart. Looks like I didn't get it. I'm not going to chase it. See if I can get it filled. All right, so I'm in an Apple put. And looking at my charts on Apple, We'll go to a 30-minute chart. We got an ATR trailing stop here. So it may have been a bit early. I should have watched for that, but I'm going to mark it. ATR 30-minute. That may provide Apple some support. And on the 1 hour, 137 is going to be my target for Apple. And the reason for 137 is I have this institutional support, this algorithmic support line I've drawn, and I have an ATR trailing stop here. So that's really strong support at the bottom. So I'm expecting that Apple could find support here. So that would be, from the time I got in, looks like about a $2 move to the downside. All right, so looking at Apple, AbbVie is moving up. Blooming Brands has found support. Still think it's going to hit that target. BTU has come back, is hitting the VWAP. That's going to be a nice trade to the upside. I'm not going to take it because I'm already in a trade. So position sizing is important. CNX, we sort of call this to the upside as well. Facebook. A trade to the downside on Facebook now would be the right entry because it broke through the opening range. It came back, it's testing it. And if it gets rejected here and starts moving, then that would be the trade to take to the downside. Nikola. Roadblocks. You see how significant that ORB is, an opening range breakout, because in the first 15 minutes, stocks sort of give you an indication of what they're going to do. I mean, this is the opening high for the first 15 minutes, the opening low. And once that gets set, you can use it to make some really good decisions. So Snap. SPY. So given what's happening with SPY, I suspect Apple is probably respecting that opening range low also. All right, so we're in this Apple trade. And we're just going to keep our eye on it. Again, with a target of 137.90, thereabouts. Now it looks like Apple was oversold here, and we've got a turning MACD, and also the RSI is turning up. So that doesn't necessarily bode well for our downward trade. So if we don't get the continuation, if Apple somehow is able to get above this opening low and close above it, then that would be some significant support. We'd have to consider exiting, or we could wait because it's still bearish. It's below the VWAP. So we're going to try and be as patient as possible with this trade and trust our signals. Looking at SPY. SPY has found support here. I did swing a SPY call, which is down. It expires tomorrow. Planning on staying in it. Just going to keep an eye on SPY as well, because we need SPY to get above, again, to get above 393.80 now, which is up here. Once it breaks the opening range high, it would signal to us that it might be okay to the upside. So looking at the VIX is certainly struggling with resistance. This is that long candle support resistance we drew on our chart before. And you can see that's still giving the VIX trouble. All right, so it looks like our Apple trade is good still. See the ATR trailing stop on 30-minute along with this fib level is providing some support. I'm going to exit my SPY call. It doesn't make sense to sit in that and lose money, because if it continues to decline, I can always buy it back cheaper. And it looks like it is going to decline. So this is SPY. So here is where you would enter a put on SPY as it breaks this opening range low. Since I'm in an Apple put, don't need both. So they trade, they're correlated in the way they perform. So we're going to stay in our Apple trade. So if you are conservative, what you would do is you would wait until Apple or whatever stock you're trading breaks below the opening range low, and then come back and test it as resistance, and then buy off of the next move down. If you're aggressive, then you would buy once it breaks the opening range low, and then you would set that as your stop. So if for some reason it comes back to test, and if it breaks above and closes above, then that would signal the need to consider getting out of that trade. So we're so far so good. Apple is just trading sideways right now here in this consolidation area, right along the 30-minute ATR trailing stop. So we sort of expected that this was going to be a bit of a problem. Once we start to get below and make a new low here, then we think we're going to be good down to about 138, 137.90. Let's take a look around and see what else we've got. AbbVie. I can get rid of this and this. So it's consolidating here along this fib level. Blooming Brands. It should be moving back to the downside soon. Again, with the target of 1788. BTU. So here's where you would consider a trade on BTU to the upside. So it broke through briefly, and now it's coming back to test support. So here's where you buy it, and here's where we would expect it to trend to the upside. Again, already being in a trade, not going to take this one, but I really like this trade to the upside on BTU. So it has an ATR of $1.99. So it looks like it has about another $1 move left in it for the day. CNX. Nice trade. Facebook. Came back to test this resistance. And here's where we're expecting Facebook to now get back on its horse and ride to the downside. Nikola. Nikola's coming out of a consolidation, so I'm tempted to take this just because it's coming out of this consolidation here. You've got this inside weekly candle. So this would be a nice swing on Nikola. And May 27th is fine. The options aren't very expensive. So this is it's at 584. About a couple of $6 calls. I'll feel good about that. I'm sorry, $6 puts. And these I'm going to hold. Nikola is a troubled EV maker. And again, this is a consolidation. So it gives me a signal here at 571. Then I will actually get more of these. But it's broken below its opening low, ORB. So that was good enough for me to consider getting started. Apple. All right, so Apple is continuing to make its move to the downside. And we look at SPY. I got out of that SPY call and looks like it was a smart move. Now there may be an opportunity to buy SPY here because what we've got the VIX hitting a key level of resistance here. So if the VIX gets rejected here, then that would signal an opportunity to buy calls on SPY. And also it would, I'm sorry, if it breaks through, yeah, if it gets rejected, that would be a chance to buy to the upside. So I'm going to actually get out of my Apple position. Well, actually the VIX is breaking through, so I'm going to stay in it. The VIX just broke through to the upside. So that's trouble for folk who are in calls. Looking at the VIX on a daily. Let me get rid of this price level here so you can see. So now we're above here and we've got a really nice move on the VIX to the upside. So that means that SPY and Apple should be working for us. All right, so I've got a target of 137.90 here on Apple. However, if for some reason Apple falls through that, then I'm going to look for this to be resistance rather than support, and I'm going to stay in. But I'm going to be watching this very, very carefully here, this 137.90. Make sure it's a semi-active trader so I can react really quickly. So I don't have any reverse signals yet. So this candle doesn't tell me that Apple is reversing. And I've got the 5-day EMA as resistance. Now Apple is oversold. So we have to watch this carefully. And we do have a VIX that is falling temporarily, but it should find support, lots of support here. And SPY, all right, so Apple should continue its descent. So any questions about where we are in our trading? Or why we made the decisions that we did?
No, no questions.
Not for me, Richard.
All right, so we've got a consolidation happening here on Apple. So it's trying to find the bottom. And I think, you know, it's this support is kind of like a magnet. So it doesn't have to hit it for it to work. Same thing with resistance. When it gets close, it starts to sort of begin to find a base, but we're still comfortable in our trade. We're not going to get faked out. We would wait for Apple to close above the 5-day EMA. And then it would test the 20, but we think both of these are going to be pretty strong resistance. So we're expecting Apple to get rejected here and then to continue to the downside. So given the fact that it's consolidating here, means that it should get a nice downside move out of this consolidation. Again, our target is 137.90. And if it breaks or if it falls through this support level, then we would stay in Apple longer. So the opening high was 141.97. So we're going to take 141.97, 141.97 minus $6.45, which is the ATR, and that gives us 135.52. So 135.52 could be our target if we fall through 137.90. All right, so we do have a close above the 5-day EMA, but we're expecting the 20 to hold. All right, so the 20 held. We're starting to move back to the downside now out of this consolidation. We don't have a lot of volume. We did here. Like to see a bit more volume. So this goal line represents average volume. So we want to see the volume bars get above that. I haven't even checked in on my Nikola puts, but let's take a look and see. So Nikola found some support. Stay in this right now because of this resistance is still bearish, and just work my Apple trade. So 138.01, 137.90 is where support is. We really would like to see Apple fall through 137.90. If we look at it on a daily chart, we'll see that there's been really a consolidation along this point. So, I mean, this has been support for a while. And remember, the more times you hit a support level or resistance level, the weaker it becomes. So here's 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th day. So we're expecting it to break today. The reason why this is a significant support level as well is because this is also where the ATR trailing stop is. All right, so we broke the ATR trailing stop. So it was here. Now it's here. Well, it's struggling. So whenever it breaks, then it moves up here as resistance. But as we can see, Apple is trying to hold on here. And let's take a look and see what's happening on the 1 minute. And we've hit this support level multiple times. This time we're expecting it to break. So we're going to get something here because we've got the 5-day EMA as resistance. We've got this ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour and this algorithmic support level here. So Apple's getting squeezed. So we're going to get one. We're going to get one or the other, either a bounce to the upside or we're going to break the support. And I'm going to get ready to make a decision if I need to get out of this trade. Don't want to give back any of my profit. Currently up 34%. So far, resistance is holding. but so is support. So this is where these indicators come in handy because they help you with decision making. So we can see here again on the 1 hour, this ATR trailing stop and this algorithmic institutional support level. Both of those together provide really strong support. I'm looking at what could be a shooting star on the VIX. So it looks like Apple is going to break support here, which is what we want. Well, there we go. All right. So now we're hoping to get some acceleration to the downside because of that, because that support level has been in place for a while. If you look at the SPY, look at that SPY trade. You're taking that trade here, 391, 388. That's what a pretty significant move. All right, so our Apple trade is working out. Now this is resistance, and pretty strong resistance. Even though the ATR trailing stop is gone, at least it appears to be gone, the remnant of it is still there. So that was a key level. So now it's going to be resistance. It doesn't show on the screen, but it's still going to be there. I normally like to draw them because you can actually see. And I'm going to remove this because that's on the 30-minute, it's no longer present. So now let's look at a 4-hour chart and see what we can find. So I don't see any support for Apple now, this juncture. Looking at the daily chart, and looking at the week, so I don't really see any support until about 122. That's a long ways down. 122.28. So the weekly ATR is $11 for Apple. And let's see here. The high for Apple for the week was 143.26. If you subtract 11.29, you're targeting 131.97. So 131.97 would be the target. I'm going to make a note on my chart here. ATR met at 131.97. So that's something that I'm always aware of. And where did it go? Should I put it on my screen? See if I can see this. All right. Okay, so we're getting, looks like a hammer here at the bottom of this move. So I'm at 45%. I'm gonna take my profit on this trade, and
Richard, way to go.
I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I'm just gonna take my profit here. I mean, I think it has more room to the downside, but I'm just gonna wait. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll find another entry. I'm not gonna risk it because I've got this, looks like a doji here that signals reversal. I've got a spinning top. And I know this is resistance, so it's going to come back and test it. So I want to make sure that it holds. And if it holds, then I would look to, again, maybe take it to the downside. So looking at SPY, that's it's a nice trade. So let's see what we have at the top that we can consider. All right, so Facebook. Facebook is in a consolidation, so I don't know if we'd mess with that. I'm going to get out of my Nikola trade. Well, actually, I'm going to wait because I'm looking at a shooting star here and a spinning top. The 5-day EMA for Nikola is at 603. Yeah, I think I will close this out because this is not working. It's moving against me. Roadblocks, consolidation, snap, consolidation. At some point, SPY is going to turn. So I'm going to look to trade SPY back up to the opening range low. It looks like we're going to get a move here to the upside. So what I've got on SPY, I've got this RSI that is giving me a seriously oversold signal. Got the MACD that is flattened and looking like it's about to cross. I've got spinning tops here. I've got a close above the 5-day EMA. I've got a green candle. So I'm gonna look to trade SPY back to the upside. And I'm looking at 391.37, which is where the opening range low is, or even the VWAP as a target, which is at 390. And at that point, we're considered either taking an exit and then trading SPY back to the downside. Looking at the VIX, so we should have a falling VIX here. Overbought, MACD crossing to the downside. So that should give us some comfort in our SPY trade. Crossing MACD. We're now looking like we're coming out of the oversold area.
Are you long SPY now, Richard?
Yes, I am. I'm in a 390, that's $393 call on SPY with a target of about 391 thereabouts. That's where I would watch for either a reversal or to take profit. And at this juncture, then I would look to, because this would be the This would be SPY coming back to test the opening range low. I would then look to buy a put here at this level after trading SPY back up to this point. So we got out of Apple, and let's see what Apple is doing. So we made the right decision. We got out of Apple right around here based on these candles, based on the fact that Apple's above the 5-day EMA. We see it now, it came back and it's now above support, and it's starting to move back to the upside. I'm going to change my headset, Dave, just 1 second. All right, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Okay, so it looks like we got a little sideways movement here on SPY, but the VIX on the 5-minute chart is giving us a hammer at the top of this move. I'm sorry, a shooting star at the top of this move. So feel fairly confident in this trade. We're going to keep our eye on it, and we may have to stay in this a little bit longer than I would like, but it's interesting. I don't see any support for the SPY. So I looked on the 30-minute. There's nothing. Looked on the 1 hour, and it broke support here on this ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour. On the 4 hour, there's nothing. So I'm expecting that what will happen on this ATR trailing stop here, that SPY will come back or climb back above it. And if it does, that's going to form a hammer, which would then be bullish. If we look at Apple, Apple is coming back, and it's going to come back above this 8-year trailing stop as well. So then this dot will move down. So we still have, looks like about 25 minutes before this candle closes. But it looks like we've still got weakness because the VIX is back on the move. So the VIX is going to hit some resistance here at 30.94. All right, so this is an ATR trailing stop. This is the 1 hour. That's going to be a problem for the VIX. Let's see where that is. All right, so here, so let's go back to our SPY trade and see what's happening. All right, so we're still good. Just dealing with volatility. So we're still trusting our charts. The first time SPY may have any real trouble is going to be at 389.40, which is where this ATR trailing stop is.
So what we're seeing today, what we're demonstrating today is you can trade both sides. You can trade down and you can trade up. So looking at the VIX again, looking at this 5-minute chart, you've got this shooting star now. Look, I'm sorry, this is a hanging man, not a shooting star. This candle looks like a hammer at the top of a move. It's not really, you want to see the wick twice as long as the body, so that's not exactly ideal. But if we get a falling VIX here, we can have a shooting star, which is an upside down hammer or an inverted hammer at the top of the move. So right now we just got volatility in the market. Look at Snap, expect that consolidation to continue. So just going to take it off the list. It doesn't make sense to consider it today. Roadblocks. I like roadblocks for a downside move because it's coming out of consolidation. So I would swing this to the downside. And the ATR is $4 and change. So the high today for roadblocks was 29.08. It's pretty close. Let's see, 29.08 minus 461, 24.47. So it still has about $2 to fall. Nikola could have stayed in Nikola, but it was dead money. It was just kind of going sideways and it was going against us. I still think it's going to be bearish, but it was the wrong trade. So it didn't work out and we got out of it. All right, so going back to our SPY trade. We're getting close to this resistance. So we've got the 5-day about to cross the 50 to the upside here. And that should give us some juice, some momentum. Normally when you have the 5-day crossing the 50 up or down, it signals momentum, or at least it adds strength. So hopefully that'll be enough to push us through this ATR trailing stop. One thing we don't want to do is get stuck in a sideways movement, because that just eats away at the value of our premium. All right, so we're at 10:30, and I'm going to stay in this SPY trade. It is, I guess, tomorrow's expiration. So we have time. Ideally, we'd like to, we'd like to be able to stay in this until tomorrow, but of course, holding overnight is always a problem. We saw that earlier. This is going to take a quick look at Apple. So we could have traded Apple back to the upside.
Just update us about text, Richard. Good job, man. Way to hit it.
Will do. Yeah, look at that Apple now. Apple is Apple could make a nice move, but again, I think it's going to be bearish for the day. So, all righty. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and happy trading.
Great job. Bye.
Have a great night.